We've all been lead actors in this specific tragedy. You're at a gathering, standing across from someone you've met not once, but 3 or 4 times. They smile, they're warm, and then, it happens. Their name is just gone. It's not even on the tip of your tongue. It's a total data wipe. A clean slate where a human identity used to be. Suddenly, you're forced into a masterclass of improvised social theater. You're angling your body, nodding intensely, desperately praying for a mutual friend to walk by and say, "Oh hey Julian," so you can stop living a lie. But here's the thing, you weren't being rude. You weren't even daydreaming. Your brain was actually working overtime. It just decided that Julian wasn't a priority for the hard drive. Today, let's look at the fascinating, slightly glitchy psychology of why we forget names, and why it's actually a sign that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Cognitive psychologists love a concept called the Baker paradox. Imagine I show you a photo of a man and say, "This guy is a baker." Then I show you a photo of a different man and say, "This guy's last name is Baker." A week later, you are statistically far more likely to remember the first man's job than the second man's name, even though the word is identical. Why? Because the human brain is an association machine. When I tell you someone is a baker, your brain lights up. You think of the smell of yeast, warm ovens, flour-dusted hands, or that bakery on the corner. You've anchored that information to a dozen existing memories. But a name is a linguistic island. Mr. Baker doesn't tell your brain anything about who he is. It's an arbitrary label. Unless you give that island a coastline, your brain treats it like a random string of code and hits delete to save space. Another reason we fail the name game is the next tin line effect. Think about the moment you're introduced to someone. Are you 100% present? Probably not. You're likely busy with a social performance audit. You're thinking, do I have something in my teeth? Am I standing too close? Okay, wait for a gap so I can say my name. Don't forget to smile. When we're in social situations, our working memory is incredibly crowded. We're so preoccupied with being next in line to speak that we effectively go deaf for a few seconds. Julian told you her name, but you were too busy being you to actually hear her. You didn't forget the name. You never actually recorded it in the first place. We also have to respect the hardware. Think of your working memory as a tiny mental workbench. It can only hold about 5 to 7 pieces of information at a time. When you meet Julian, her name sits on that bench, but then the conversation moves. She tells you she's a graphic designer. She mentions she just moved from Chicago. She says she has a rescue dog. Each new, colorful detail bumps something else off the bench to make room. Because Julian has no context, unlike Chicago or graphic designer, it's usually the first thing to get pushed into the abyss. It's an encoding failure. The information never made the jump from the temporary workbench to the long-term filing cabinet because your brain didn't see a clear path to get it there. Now, there's a myth that forgetting names means you're selfish or uninterested, but the psychology suggests something much more human. Often, people who are more empathetic or introverted are the most likely to forget names. Why? Because they are hyper-focused on the emotional vibe of the interaction. You're reading body language, tone, and eye contact. You're connecting with the soul of the person, but the name gets lost in the shuffle. There's also attentional weight. We remember names better when we perceive high stakes, like meeting a new boss or a celebrity. If you forget a name in a casual setting, it's often just a sign that your brain was prioritizing the interaction over the index. So, how do we stop the blackout? The trick is to turn the name Baker into the profession Baker. When someone says their name, use it immediately. "Nice to meet you, Julian." Then find a hook. Think, Julian, like the Julian calendar. Or Julian, she's wearing a green shirt like my cousin. By creating a bridge to something you already know, you give that island a coastline. But if you still forget, don't sweat it. Most people are sitting in the same boat, quietly panicking, trying to remember yours, too. If this deep dive into the social blackout made you feel a little better about your brain's delete button, you'll probably find my other videos equally relatable. If social expectations often feel a bit heavy for you, like, for example, that weird pressure to be the center of attention on your own birthday, I've done a whole video on the psychology of why many introverts actually dread their birthdays. Or, if you've ever felt like a bit of an outsider because you just can't bring yourself to care about the latest viral trend, you might want to check out my exploration of the psychology of people who don't follow trends. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.